Hello. Good morning. It is Friday, July 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's my time. Um, how are you all this morning? Happy Friday. I hope you're at the end of a good week, heading into a good weekend. Um, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. It's going to be a little bit of a heavier stream. I'll just let you know right out the gate. Yeah. But before we even get there, my mind is a little bit, I have a lot of different things on my mind right now. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes here at the beginning. One, I know the Alec Baldwin trial is going on right now. Trust me, believe me, I have been watching. It has been very interesting, and we're only on day 3. Not even so much the actual trial process, like the evidence that's coming out at trial, as much as just getting back to seeing our old friend Carrie Morrissey from the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial back at it again, doing her thing, which is a really annoying thing in my opinion. That's been interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily do huge court recaps until kind of like last time with Karen Reed. I feel like it's better to do once the state is done presenting their case, doing something, and then once the defense is done presenting their case, doing something, and then a kind of jury deliberation day. But it has definitely, because I went to college for musical theater, so I'm in acting in a way. I've done some professional acting. It's definitely bringing some very important issues. They're very interesting, complex issues, and it's important that they be decided from a legal standpoint, I think, about whose responsibility it is to be, to make sure that a prop weapon is safe. And when somebody gives you a prop weapon and says that it's cold, usually that means there's no ammunition whatsoever inside of it. So should you expect that there's anything inside of it, let alone open it up and check to see whether or not the things inside of it are blanks or dummies or alive? So that's, it's interesting. I feel like I come at it with a little bit of bias being an actor, but or at least being trained as an actor. But I also, with so much experience recently paying attention to trials and learning about the law, I'm not as biased as I used to be toward the actor. So it's a very interesting trial for me to watch. Good morning, Taya. How are you? But yeah, I'm keeping my eye on that. I'm keeping my eye on Carrie. And I understand if you're more interested in watching that than watching this stream this morning. That's understandable to me. It's cool. Also, YouTube has been really moody with me this month. Last month in June was really cool, but then this month I feel like my videos are not getting out to people. I looked at my analytics and I had 5 or 6 videos all with yellow dollar signs, which from a monetization point of view, I'm not making a lot of money doing this right now. So it's not about that as much as it's about it turns my account into a red flag for YouTube. So everything gets a little bit smothered. So if you see my stuff, can you just click on it? And actually, if you're here this morning, can you let me know how you got here? Did you get a notification? Did you just see my video on your recommended? Was it some other way? Because I'm curious to see what YouTube is doing right now with my account from your end. I can only see it from a particular point of view. And what they tell me is happening doesn't always seem to be happening. So, it's another interesting thing going on in life. But I'm going to be here. I'm going to be putting stuff on. Oh, okay, you got notified, Taya. Thank you. So that lets me know that I set it up right so that it should be notifying people. Okay. So it might just be a matter of timing, stuff like that. I'm still trying to figure out the right schedule for streaming and the right topics. But this is a topic that no matter what I want to talk about. So Let's get into it. Today, we are doing a follow-up. It's kind of a part 2 to the series, in the series that I'm doing about the troubled teen industry, Paris Hilton, Bad Baby, and especially this was sparked by what I streamed about last week on 4th of July when Paris Hilton went to Congress to advocate for, what's it called? Dang it, I need to pull it up again. My brain is so full of other things because the week has just been so full. Hold on, I'm just looking at it super quick. The thing that she advocated for in Congress. Okay, yes, there it is. So, Paris's big day in Congress. Paris in Washington, D.C. She went to speak before Congress regarding Title 4B of the Social Security Act, which essentially works together with Title 4E as a child welfare. The two of them work together as child welfare, essentially, from what I understand from the hearing. And I'm no expert. I'm no lawyer. This is all my speculation and my opinion and my commentary, etc. Please don't sue me. I'm not saying I know the facts of anything. Cool. So I thought that was really cool to see her do that, to use her platform in that way. And that started me down this path of researching because it's important to see her testifying, but I think in order to understand the significance of her testifying about her experience in Congress, we have to fully understand what her experience was. And it was really, really bad. So I'll start out here by saying, warning, this stream is not for the faint of heart. This stream is not for people who were harmed as children. This stream is not for people, I'll try to give out warnings as I go throughout, but just in general, understand that it's going to be a tough one. It's not the toughest I've ever done, I think, but it's a tough one. So if mentally this is not the day for you to kind of look at some disturbing moments, then that's okay. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. It's okay if you skip this one. Peace. Go in peace, my friend. No pressure. But if you do want to stick around and find out more about Paris's experience within the troubled teen industry, today's the day. We're going to dive in. And I've been looking forward to this. I've been drafting this for like a little too long. So hopefully I didn't overdo it. I was going to try to squeeze Paris's story and Bad Baby's story together into one stream. And I was like, I don't think I can, because just Paris's story is huge enough on its own. Like, I wanted to do these stories justice. I think each of them is going to get their own stream. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's chat. Let's go. And I do have notes with a bit of scripting so that I stay on track. So I will be looking at notes today as I chat with you. Shout out to Disney for modding the stream chat, because I'm not going to be as able to look at it. So here I go. Sorry, I'm introducing this 20 times. Two of the most influential people speaking out about troubled teen camps today are rapper and influencer Bad Baby, also known as Danielle Bergoli, and socialite and performer and DJ, I didn't even know until recently, Paris Hilton. These two women were born into two very different generations, two very different families, and have experienced two very different upbringings. So they come into these troubled teen camps by two very different methods, and for two different reasons. Well, scratch that, not two different reasons. But despite their many differences, Paris Hilton and Bad Baby's experiences with these camps are surprisingly similar. The only way to understand what these camps are really like and why Paris went to the trouble of advocating against foster youth being sent to them before Congress is by listening to the stories of people like Paris and Danielle who attended these camps as teens, and in their cases, overcame them to the point of becoming activists against them. Since they were... What did I write? Sorry, guys. Since they are not working for the troubled teen industry, I think that they have no reason to lie, especially so far after the time that they attended. Most importantly, if the government contributes to funding these for-profit camps by paying to send foster youth there, we, as taxpayers who fund the government and thereby fund that situation, we need to know exactly what's going on there so that we can make informed choices about whether or not we should be supporting that and how we should vote or how we should impact legislation regarding this. This is why Paris Hilton went to advocate before Congress back in June of 2024 to ask the government to stop the practice of sending foster youth to these camps, because they absolutely do not meet the needs of foster youth. And if anything, they only add to their trauma. For further information on this, please see my previous stream that I did about her going to Congress. The entire hearing is actually linked in the description of that stream. If you want to watch the whole thing, I do think it's fascinating. Or you can watch my stream, which is kind of it's a little longer than I want it to be, but it is a breakdown of the most significant parts that stuck out to me. So, tax-paying Americans and other places, because Paris has spoken in the UK, for example, about these types of camps. Let's take a look and see what these troubled teen camps, wilderness camps, residential care facilities for teens, what they're really all about, and what their tough love approach, which comes from a very... Let's see what these camps are really all about, with their tough love approach, which comes from a very specific and, dare I say, culty root, which we will discuss in a different video or stream in this series. I want to discuss Paris Hilton and Bad Baby's stories chronologically, starting with Paris Hilton today, and we'll do Bad Baby next time. So we can see if there are any differences between the experiences that they had since they attended these camps decades apart. And I think I've already alluded to the fact that their experiences unfortunately were strikingly similar, and that should not be the case, in my opinion. And by the end, we will see just a slice of why these camps are so controversial and are considered traumatizing rather than rehabilitating. Content warning. This video and the stories within will contain some very disturbing claims about actions toward children. These include physical, mental, emotional, and sexual harm. So if these topics will negatively impact you as the viewer, please feel free to leave now. There's no hard feelings. Go in peace, my friend. As for the rest of us, are you ready? Do you have a drink? Do you have a snack? Are you cozy? Are you ready to settle in? Good. Let's dive in. For my Paris Hilton story outline, I'm relying on 2 to 3 main video sources that are linked in the description of this stream. And they are a story on her that was done by 60 Minutes Australia, as well as Paris Hilton's own documentary, This is Paris, which she has uploaded on her own YouTube channel. It's a YouTube Originals documentary, but it's basically you find it through Paris Hilton's YouTube channel. Also on that Paris Hilton YouTube channel, official, is a compilation that they made of the clips of that, kind of like highlight clips of that if you don't have time to watch the entire hour 45, you can watch that clip compilation that kind of gives you the highlights of what she wanted to share about being at Provo Canyon, Utah, and her experience with troubled teen camps and schools and such. So I'm going to have all 3 of those videos linked in the description, along with some articles on my resources. I'm just going to say I highly recommend that you check out the full This Is Paris documentary film, original, whatever, because I thought it was very humanizing of this thing that we know of as Paris Hilton. Like, people like me, I was born in 93, so I grew up kind of vaguely knowing of Paris Hilton, just like knowing that she was rich and famous, but not knowing why, and not knowing why I knew her name, but I did. I knew her name. And kind of knowing that she was like pretty and rich and famous for something, but beyond that, I didn't know much about her. And I think that this is a really great way to learn about who she is as a person and why. This is also, by the way, me talking about this stuff does not absolve her of all of her wrongs. We need to have nuance here. There were a couple... I'm not here to say that Paris is a perfect person. I'm not here to say that anybody that I report on is a perfect person. Somebody mentioned in a comment about her supporting James Charles, but I think that's a reference to her being on his show. She guest judged on Instant Influencer during the brief window of time when James Charles was in everybody's good graces before he got smacked down. There was like this window in 2020. If you were there, you know. I'm not going to blame a kind of traditional media Hollywood celebrity for not knowing everything about social media celebrities, and especially something like James Charles, where it's kind of a complex situation where still to this day, there's a lot of people who have a lot of very different and mixed opinions. But, and especially she's like not... She's not old, but she's not young. She didn't grow up with socials the way that a lot of us did. And so she's probably not as on top of everybody's everything and knows all the influencers and all their stories and all their drama and all their tea and who she should align with and who she shouldn't, and you know. So you don't have to like that she did that. I don't love that she did it. But I think it does not overshadow the significance of her sharing her story when it comes to her upbringing and her experience in these camps. And that to me is so much more important. So yeah, the same thing is going to be true for Bad Baby when I talk about her. The fact that I'm sharing the advocacy that they're doing does not erase or does not excuse the bad things that they've done. Bad Baby has had a history with blackfishing and with a lot of kind of sketchy behavior. She's also in a tough moment right now. I saw an Instagram... I saw news about an Instagram story that she posted and then quickly took down, that appeared to show her being physically harmed by her current boyfriend or fiance or husband. I don't know exactly their partner, even though she is pregnant, and they have been happily together for a while. So she's also so young. She's like just 20 or 21. So a lot of the stuff that she was doing that everybody has a problem with was when she was a child. So, you know, the point is we have to view each person with nuance. We have to view each action separately. There are patterns of behavior, but patterns of behavior from, you know, somebody like Bad Baby who was a child when she was doing most of the bad behavior. That's when you're supposed to do bad behavior, because that's when you get taught what's right and wrong, is when you're a kid. So that when you're an adult, you don't do that no more. Yeah, this is not to absolve or excuse any of the things that people might have problems with, but it is to share the things that they are doing good because I think I like having some good news to share. And this type of advocacy is so rare to see these days, especially with social media influencers. So we can take the good with the bad, I think. In my opinion, that's what I'm choosing to do. Okay. So, Paris Hilton. I'm going to pull up the first clip. Ooh, can I organize my stuff today? Do-do-do-do. Yay. All right, we're here. Hooray. Okay. So things are good. So during the 60 Minutes Australia video, Paris describes that she had a very strict upbringing, and probably that has to do with being the child of the Hilton family. Hilton hotels, big money family, big power family, big image family, big want to protect their PR family. A lot of pressure on her as a kid. Let's see what she has to say about that. Thank you, 60 Minutes Australia. I'm going to put it on 1.25 speed so you don't feel sad about me using your video.
Before Paris Hilton was known as the It Girl, her parents considered her a wild child who desperately needed help.
I wasn't a bad kid. I did not deserve that. My parents were so strict. I wasn't allowed to go on a date. I couldn't go to a school dance. I couldn't wear makeup. They were very, very strict. And then moving to New York City and getting invited to all these parties and clubs, and it was just this whole new world to me. So I started sneaking out at night, and I was getting bad grades.
Confounded by her defiance and fearful for her well-being, Paris's parents decided their only option for their wayward daughter was to send her to therapeutic residential care.
So that's one interpretation, basically, one telling of the story of how Paris got sent to camp. Let's hear a slightly different perspective from Paris sharing it herself in her documentary. This is Paris. Sorry for the delay. This is just going to kind of be how it is today. I have to do a lot of back and forth between these two videos.
I was just a kid living in New York, going to high school. Obviously ditching a lot of class, whatever, but I feel like my parents were scared and they didn't want their reputations to be ruined, because Page Six was writing all these stories. So I felt like I was just kind of just sent away to be hidden.
So later on, I'm not sure if it's I think it's in the 60 Minutes video description. Yes. So one thing I'll show really quick that I think kind of speaks to kind of the moral of this story when it comes to people like Paris Hilton, who come from privileged families with a lot of wealth, with, one would think, all the resources in the world to be able to handle a teen who's kind of doing normal teen rebellion things. I think there's a perspective that's shared in the literally the description of the 60 Minutes video. So there's like whoever is the copywriter over at 60 Minutes. I like your word choice. They say, Now, though, this video is from November 13th, 2022. Now, though, survivors led by celebrity it girl Paris Hilton, and including a brave Australian woman, we'll talk about her, have had enough and are demanding that parents stop outsourcing parenting. I think that's the feeling that somebody like Paris Hilton, who it's not that her parents couldn't afford to get her therapy. It's not like her parents couldn't afford to get her counseling. It's not like her parents couldn't afford to get her a nanny. They were just concerned or didn't have the time, didn't have the willpower, or didn't trust people like that. I don't know. I'm assuming. The feeling of outsourcing parenting, I feel like, is such perfect language for situations like this. If you're a business bitch and you're all about your business and your name and your reputation in the media, then it might make complete sense to you to send your kid to a camp like this so that they'll be in a safe place. You don't have to worry about it. You send them away to get fixed, and then they come back and they're good. Kind of like sending a dog to obedience training or obedience training camp. But unfortunately, people aren't dogs, so that's not how that works. And even dogs are more emotionally complex than Pavlov gave them credit for. But so the 60 Minutes video gives a concise overview of the types of places that Paris was sent to. So I'm going to share that.
Paris's parents decided their only option for their wayward daughter was to send her to therapeutic residential care. In the US, it's a flourishing multi-billion-dollar industry that promises a life-saving fix in remote wilderness camps and so-called boarding schools far away from home.
We know of at least one other famous teen who was sent to a place like this. I recently streamed about the Frankie family because Kevin Frankie had some statements to make that appalled me. But somebody reminded me in the comments, and I think it's worth mentioning, Chad Frankie was sent to one of these wilderness camps. Just saying. I'll get more into that eventually when I talk about the origin of these camps in a later stream. But keep that in mind. Little nugget. Put a pin in that.
In reality, for many, it comes at an incalculable cost.
So these camps, in the opinions of the students, turn out to be more harmful than helpful. Before Paris's parents sent her all the way to like a camp, they started by sending her to emotional growth schools. So I'm going to show you this is Paris clip related to that because they don't really discuss it as much in the 60 Minutes. And I think that this is interesting. This video, the This is Paris video, is the one that outlines the most clearly, because Paris has said she's gone to 3 or 4 of these different facilities, and this video outlines the best the order of operations there, when she did what and how and why.
Your child.
I first sent her to an outdoor wilderness program.
It's for teenage boys and girls needing a change of attitude and direction.
There's all these places.
A change of attitude and direction. Keep that in mind. That's the aim. How are we getting there?
Attitude and direction.
There's all these places called emotional growth schools. The first place was in the middle of nowhere. We were building other camps, basically doing manual labor all day long. It was just constant yelling at, like, boot camp style. So I whispered to one of the girls, like, let's get out of here tonight.
Warning. First of all, somebody's like weed whacking outside. My apologies. Warning. Within this clip, within the next 30 seconds of no, within the next 40 seconds of the clip that I'm going to show, there is a description and a mention of physical harm to kids. So if you want to skip that, leave real quick and come back in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
She got away.
We ran through cornfields, through mountains. The guys that worked at the camp grabbed us, and then we got back and they literally just beat the hell out of us in front of everyone, just to let everyone know, if you run away, this is what happens.
That was it. If you want to come back. That wasn't 2 minutes from now. But so considering that this was Paris Hilton's experience, no wonder she kept running away from these camps. She mentioned 3 that she escaped from in her This Is Paris video. So let's take a look at that. Sorry. She mentions 3 different places in her This Is Paris video that she ran away from. And because of that is why her parents decided to send her to someplace more intense. So this is her mom discussing that decision.
All our time trying to figure out, should we move to the moon? What do we do? We're just spending all our time trying to figure out, should we move to the moon? What do we do?
I'm like, please, can I just go home? I've already been through so much. I promise I'll never go to a club again. Please, like, I can't go back to these places. You have no idea.
And that's confirmation that it had to do with her going to clubs. Not even so much about her skipping school, it seems, but the image of the Hilton family's daughter going out clubbing at night as a teen, and how bad that looks for the family.
There was no convincing them, no matter what I said. So I just didn't trust them. It made me not trust anyone, not even my own family. The last school that I went to was Provo Canyon School. And that was the worst of the worst. There's no getting out of there.
Provo Canyon School is the school that, if you've heard Paris Hilton talk about her experience in this industry, this is probably the school that you've heard her talk about the most, because it is the most intense, it is the most harsh one that she experienced. So in these clips that are shared from the This Is Paris documentary, which, filmed in 2019 to 2020, right? Paris's mom still, in the 2019s to 2020s, seems frustrated by Paris's behavior at the time when she was a teen. And it's clear to me that over time, Paris has grown through her anger and found places to offer her parents some grace, which really impresses me. I want to show you a clip of her doing that.
Did your parents talk to you about it at all? Did you have any forewarning that this was what they were planning?
When I was getting bad grades, they would say, we're going to send you to boarding school. But they had no idea what type of boarding school this was. These places use such deceptive marketing. It's really just blows my mind and breaks my heart just to know what happens behind closed doors.
In this clip and in This Is Paris, Paris Hilton makes the point that her parents did not know the truth about the schools that she was sent to and how she would be treated while she was there. And I'll also mention that other people who have gone to schools like this and have shared their experiences will mention that The parents will be told by the staff of the school not to trust what their kids are saying when their kids complain about harsh treatment. They'll say the kids are trying to manipulate you, they're trying to deceive you, they're trying to lie to you. Don't trust them. They're bad kids. They're liars. They're deceivers. They're in here for a reason. And if they tell you they experienced X, Y, or Z, they're lying. So later on, Paris says that she didn't talk about it to her parents because she knew she wouldn't be believed. And I think that if the staff is towing that line, I understand why the parents would believe the staff over the kid that they think is acting out so badly. It really, really sucks when staff use their power that way. But in this clip that we just saw, and in the This Is Paris documentary, Paris really seems to blame the ignorance that her parents had on deceptive marketing. Like that little video that we were seeing clips of. The kids are riding horses, they're walking around in their little uniforms, they're walking through the woods, they're not being yelled at and being put in isolation, which we'll get to. I admire that where Paris could rightfully hold a lot of anger and bitterness toward her parents, she instead gives them so much grace. I also find it ironic that her parents were very concerned about Paris damaging their reputation with her teenage antics. Because, how's this for a reputation, Hilton's? The billionaire parents who sent your daughter away to get harmed physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually, all because you couldn't bother to parent her or hire a nanny or some shit, take her to therapy. I really don't feel like this makes your reputation better. I'm so sorry. You know, that's just something that I think. I'm so distracted by whoever is weed whacking or what. Can you guys hear that? Because if it's just me, then I'll carry on. But it's just that time of the year. Everybody's out taking care of their lawns at the middle of the day on a Friday. Oh, they stopped. No, they didn't. All right. Moving on. So we've described kind of in overview language the allegations that Paris has about these places, that they are bad, they are awful, you know, but it's time for us to get into specifics about exactly what Paris is talking about. Thank you, Taya. And I'm sorry. Over the course of multiple interviews and statements over multiple years, Paris Hilton has alleged the following happening to her and other youth at the Provo Canyon School while she was there for 11 months. And I have clips for some of these things, not all, because I want to make it clear that these are not allegations I'm making because I've never been to these schools, but I'll show you the allegations from Paris. First of all, this rubs me so the wrong way. Paris was victim to the most pathetic gimmick that this whole industry has to offer, in my opinion, which is when camp staff ambush kids in their homes in the middle of the night and transport them by force to these troubled teen camps. Bad Baby has experienced that this, Bad Baby has shared that this is part of her experience. So has Paris, obviously. So have other people. Like, for example, Dr. Phil sent Bad Baby to Turnabout Ranch, which is another one of these godforsaken camps. And they have multiple videos on the Dr. Phil channel, the YouTube channel, of like clips of these moments when, like, showing these transporters coming in the middle of the night to wake a teen out of their sleep and take them to these camps. Which is just the craziest thing to me, because the way that they frame it in the video clip is like the transporters are the good guys and the teen is just so wacky for resisting some strangers in the night coming and waking them out of their sleep to take them to where they don't know where. Like, I'm sorry, I thought we also teach our kids stranger danger. I don't know. Is it kind of natural to have, like, when you have strange adults towering over you and your parents are nowhere to be found, surprise, we're going to take you somewhere. Like, that's a kind of healthy, normal reaction. Like, if they were like, oh, okay, sounds good, I think I would be more concerned by that, as a parent. I'm not a parent, but were I a parent, that would be more concerning to me personally, if they were fine with it. Anyway, so this is Paris describing that stupid experience. I should say pathetic, shameful experience that they put her through.
These two men came into my room at 4:30 in the morning, holding up handcuffs and said, "Do you want to go the easy way or the hard way?" And I had no idea who they were. I thought I was being kidnapped.
It's a horror story echoed almost word for word by many young people who were forcibly sent away by their parents. Described.
So Paris says that she had no idea who the men were or where they were taking her, and she describes this experience as terrifying and traumatic. She screamed for help without knowing that her parents had signed paperwork allowing this to happen to her. And that part of the story is also, as 60 Minutes says, echoed by tons of teens who have talked about this. After arriving at Provo Canyon, students, clients, I don't know the best word, but the allegedly troubled teens were, according to Paris Hilton, kept from seeing sunlight or breathing fresh air for the whole time they were there. Forced to sit and stare at a wall all day long, getting yelled at or hit. They were kept awake to purposefully make them sleep deprived, and as somebody who has had insomnia for over 2 years and dealt with a lot of sleep deprivation recently, that particularly bothers me, but this is not about me. Students, I guess, were watched by male and female staff during bathroom breaks and showers. Paris comments that she thinks the staff, quote, got off on torturing children and seeing them naked. Paris and other kids were also prescribed and force-fed an unknown concoction of pills. These pills made Paris feel tired and numb and made other kids seem, quote, gone, like the lights are on but nobody's home. When Paris was discovered trying to skip taking her pills, she was punished with solitary confinement. And I'm just going to say, no school should have a solitary confinement room, let alone use one. That's crazy to me. Paris also said that she experienced sexual harm under the guise that it was medical care, which as an adult she can now look back and see and know that it absolutely was not. Other experiences at these places, either Provo Canyon or the emotional growth schools that she visited before Provo Canyon, also included her being held against her will, being strangled, being hit, and a lot of other things. Depending on which interview of hers that you watch, she brings up different things, and it's kind of hard to put them all together in one list, but this is the most that I could figure out. Paris has mentioned that at other troubled teen camps that she has learned about, these camps in general, kids can be tied up with restraints and they can also be put into dog cages. These are all just as various forms of control and punishment for teens, teenage children. In the 60 Minutes interview, Paris says, quote, "They were just trying to break us down the entire time." And this is a theme across these facilities, as we will definitely see, especially in Bad Baby's story. But this 60 Minutes interview that Paris gives, this segment that includes the interview from Paris, essentially, it also includes the interview of It also includes the interview of an Australian woman named Emily, who was ambushed in the night and shipped away to another troubled teen camp here in the USA, which I find particularly, like, I don't know how that's allowed across international borders. The word trafficking comes to mind, but I don't know if that's, like, again, parental consent controls everything when you're under the age of 18. Emily experienced attack therapy, which the origin of which we will discuss in a later stream. I want to show you her talking about that in the 60 Minutes interview, because you wouldn't believe it if I just told you about it. It's so weird. Weird is a very kind word for what it is.
Emily was taken first to a wilderness facility in Utah for 10 weeks and then moved to her final destination, a school called Monarch in deep and remote Montana. She says it was here she...
So I know that I've brought up that there's a lot of these places in Utah for some reason. It's not just Utah. There's this place in Montana. And I think Turnabout Ranch is in Utah, but another interview that I was watching was talking about a camp in Texas. So I have a lot of heat for Utah coming up soon, but it's not just Utah. Although Utah has got to tighten up that ship.
She says it was here she quickly discovered a kind of hell on earth with no one to save her.
If you even looked at someone the wrong way, you were forced to dig up tree stumps. Food was taken away, and you weren't allowed to talk to a single other person for months at a time.
Even more disturbing, aggressive group counselling, widely known as attack therapy, pitting child against child and reenacting the traumas of their peers, including sexual abuse.
It was a snowball effect, so one kid would start yelling at another kid and more kids would join in. These were torture for me, to have a group of 15 of your peers yelling at you. And what would make matters worse is this rile-up gang mentality would go farther than the walls of that room.
And I just need to point out, this idea, this attack therapy, does not technically originate from these troubled teen camps, but it was adopted by a lot of these troubled teen camps from an extremist group that we're going to talk about. I feel like, why? You know, ultimately, why? Why does this seem productive? Why does this seem like it helps anybody process anything or understand how they're, you know, how they need to learn, grow, change, if it's just a bunch of people yelling at you? I just, tell me, if you think you know why, if you think you can get, like, the reasoning here, let me know in the comments, because it escapes me.
And this was encouraged by the...
This was encouraged.
In the group, there were kids with a wide variety of issues. Some were deeply disturbed. Others, like Emily, suffered anxiety and depression. Hard labour, deprivation and shaming seemed to be the answer, no matter the problem.
And that's an extremely important point too. When you're talking about teens as troubled, that's such a huge and very interpretive umbrella to put kids under. Like, yeah, it could just be a mental health issue that with some accommodations they could be fine. Especially, like, God forbid, somebody who's on the autism spectrum and their parents are just unwilling to figure out how to make life work for them. Like, are they a troubled teen because they get a lot, you know, they have sensory issues, they get overloaded, or they're having a hard time with pronouncing words because a lot of autistic people who are nonverbal, it's not even about that they're not, you know, mentally they're there, but they have a hard time with the muscle control of the mouth and the tongue and the throat to be able to create words and communicate. They're fully there, but it's the frustration is what comes out. So it's like, why would we treat that person the same as we would treat someone who, like, there are kids who commit crimes, for example. That's a whole different category of teen than a teen who's struggling with anxiety and depression. Like, I'm so sorry. Being in attack therapy would not help my anxiety and depression. I don't know who would be helped by it. I'm no therapist, but like, you know, where's my drink? Yeah. I think it's like the description of the 60 Minutes video said, outsourcing parenting. And if it's true that all these parents truly don't know what's going on, then I can give them like a slight molecule of grace. But there are absolutely parents who send their kids to these places knowing that they're harsh because it aligns with their values on parenting as like a tough love, spare the rod, spoil the child, that kind of thing. So if it can vaguely align with your values, this kind of treatment, maybe you should reassess your values also. Just saying. Okay. Let me get back to my outline. I shouldn't spitball too much. I'm not very good. This is not the best day for it. One more clip from Emily's story that I think is particularly telling. When we look at things like this that are completely illogical, that just like do not seem to connect to each other. Somebody with mental health problems being treated with attack therapy, which, by the way, is not therapy. Like, if you have had therapy before, you know that that's not therapy. If you have not had therapy before, please rest assured, that's not therapy. That's sanctioned bullying. And there's nothing therapeutic and healing about it. But when you're looking at illogical things like that and going, how, why, how does this exist? This other clip from the 60 Minutes video kind of shows how it can happen. So let me pull that up.
About this.
The worst of my experience was the headmaster of the school telling me that my life would amount to nothing because at the core, I was a wayward youth and that I wasn't worth the college application fee.
Of course, Emily was worth the application fee and so much more, making it to university to study.
So let me just go back to that one more time. Let that sink in for one sweet second.
The worst of my experience was the headmaster of the school telling me that my life would amount to nothing because at the core, I was a wayward youth and that I wasn't worth the college application fee.
So that says everything that you need to know. When that kind of mentality and that kind of message is being boldly sent from the headmaster at a school. If you see troubled teens as wayward, evil, villains, unable to be helped, and troubled, as we know, doesn't even necessarily mean like misbehaving, committing crimes. It's just like anything that doesn't match their parents' cookie cutter perfection that they're seeking is kind of what it seems like. If you can send someone to one of these camps for mental health problems as ordinary as anxiety and depression. If you see your troubled teens as if they're unable to be helped, no wonder your only efforts are to break them down, like Paris Hilton said. But if you just see them as normal kids, normal teens, normal human beings, doing the normal teenage rebellion thing, finding themselves, discovering the world, you hope and pray that they make safe choices, but if they don't, you love them through it, and you help them to actually learn, grow, and mature. You don't outsource parenting to some kind of cruelty camp that you're just kind of hoping works. So, we're not even into Bad Baby's story, and we can already see this theme across these different places, where rather than trying to help these allegedly troubled kids, healing them, treating them, rehabbing them, instead they try to break kids down, subdue and silence them through fear and violence. Even though these places are called emotional growth schools and therapeutic boarding schools, therapeutic residential care facilities, like, where are the emotions? Where is the growth? Where is the therapy? Where is the care? I'm looking for those things in people's stories. No stories about these camps have that to say. Instead, it seems the troubled teen industry treats kids who are not some cookie-cutter form of perfection as an evil, especially as an evil that needs to be defeated, and as purposeful villains rather than victims of poor circumstances, which most kids are, especially foster kids who may be sent here by the government for no fault of their own. Remember that. That's why Paris went to Congress. It isn't just about rich kids who want to outsource parenting. It's also about foster kids who are in the system for reasons that typically don't have to do with them. Sometimes it's because they're, financial problems for their parents, addiction problems for their parents, or even their parents harming them, and then they get sent away to a boarding school, but it's just a place like this where it's some other awful, disgusting type of harm and trauma being inflicted on them instead, when they didn't do anything wrong. So let me just say, when it comes to villainizing normal teenager behavior, speaking from personal experience and observation, as someone who was very suppressed as a teen, the risky exploratory behavior of teenagerhood will come out at some point in these kids' lives. If you suppress it, you will only postpone it, not prevent it, because it's natural. And I think it's better for parents to let it happen under your roof, under your protection, where they will have a safe home to return to and parental guidance through uncertain situations, rather than making them wait until adulthood to figure this shit out, where the consequences of their exploration can be so much more dire. Take responsibility for your kids. That's what it comes down to. They didn't ask to be born. You wanted this challenge? You took action to make it happen? Be responsible. Now, so we've heard a lot about the terrible things that Paris endured in these places. She was at Provo Canyon School, the most intense one, for about 11 months after, months of these other places that she had gone. Paris describes in This Is Paris how she survived. So I want to share that for you.
I was at Provo for 11 months. And the only thing that saved my sanity was thinking about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become when I got out of there. I was going to do everything in my power to be so successful that my parents could never control me again.
It's kind of sad to see that being her mindset of wanting to create that boundary and that distance between her own parents. But thanks to the privileges of her family's fame and fortune, this worked for her. I can't imagine that it worked as well for other teens. But, you know, it's her story that we're telling today, so good for her. Paris has shared about some significant long-term effects of her time at Provo Canyon and other schools, but, you know, Provo Canyon is really the main one that she talks about. She discusses nightmares, some significant nightmares that she still has almost every night. I'm going to play a clip, and this may be triggering to anybody who has had something bad happen to them at night. So I'm going to recommend, if that's something that would concern you or might impact you negatively, come back in about 1 minute. Okay? I'll give you a starting. Come back in 1 minute, starting now. 3, 2, 1.
I have horrible insomnia. I'm scared to go to bed at night. I always have this recurring nightmare, no matter what I do. I'm in bed, and these two people come into my room. And say, do you want this to happen the easy way or the hard way? I'm trying to just run.
And that's something that she still experiences over 20 years after the fact. Paris has also shared that she has been in 5 harmful relationships in her adult life, and that she believes that she fell into those relationships and endured them for a while because she thought that that treatment was normal, because so much of her life, especially at the school, she experienced that type of infliction of harm. She discusses the long-term impacts with some other students who went to Provo Canyon with her when they have a reunion together in the This Is Paris documentary. So I wanted to play that clip because I feel like it's not wisdom shared by Paris, but by somebody else, really has some beautiful wisdom to say. And I feel like it's a great, you know, Paris is not the only one who has grown through this experience. So have her classmates, essentially. So in this scene, they're getting together to take photos for the campaign for Breaking Code Silence, which is an organization that wants to prevent institutional child abuse. I have a fundraiser going on this video and my last stream about this for Breaking Code Silence. I should have said that a lot earlier in this stream, my bad. But if you want to contribute, the organization is very specifically tailored to this specific cause of preventing institutional child abuse and empowering survivors of it to share their stories. So I think that that's really cool. Link is in my video somewhere. There's a donation link, and I hope that you contribute. And I'll continue on all of these related streams. I'm going to continue posting fundraiser links for Breaking Code Silence. Okay? But so they're taking photos for a Breaking Code Silence campaign.
an example of like some other girls that have done this Breaking Code Silence campaign. You know, like, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. And this is, you know, I was a survivor of Provocaine in school. While I was there, I was deprived of my rights.
Wow.
Provo Canyon School. What are we writing next?
Then you put underneath the,
Rough dates.
yeah,
Our years, and then gave me
trust issues.
Fear of being controlled.
With PTSD.
There's so many that it will not fit on the card. People are to look at me like, whoa, Paris has a lot of issues.
Don't worry, I've got a
But the
lot.
thing is that like these issues aren't issues that you like decided to create one day and have and walk around in the world with. You know what I mean? This isn't your shame. It's not her shame or hers or mine. It's their f***ing shame. Yeah. We've just been carrying it.
Amen. My name is Cal.
I love that friend. I love the words that she just said. And I think that that's an important thing for all survivors to remember. We don't need to be ashamed of what was done to us. It is the shame of the person who did such a thing. They should feel shame for having the audacity. I think that that's powerful, and I wanted to make sure to share that. But here she's surrounded by this group of like 4 or 5 other women from her class who all experienced what she experienced. And as they film these stories for the Breaking Code Silence campaign, they share what they experienced and the long-term effects on them. So again, I highly recommend watching This Is Paris, or at least watching the compilation clip video that I have linked. I have both of them, the full one and the compilation video, linked in my description. And then during this reunion, there's a moment where Paris goes and takes a break. And I want to play this for you as well, because when we're talking about long-term impacts, this is like she has a little bit of a existential crisis during this meeting, and I completely understand it. Meeting, it's not a meeting, it's a reunion, but let's take a look.
I just came up here because there was just so much to take in. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm not alone. It's not me and it's not my fault. Sometimes I feel like so many things, but sometimes like this robot and this character that I did and talking with them, like I started remembering who I was before. And just, I don't know. It makes me sad they took that away.
We're not through the whole clip I wanted to show you, but that was super eye-opening to me, this section that I'm showing you, because like I said, like I've only known of Paris as her brand, but it's so fascinating to hear how she describes this brand as not really being herself. And I think that a lot of celebrities, that can happen. Your brand kind of takes on a life of its own, but to have that come from such a traumatic place for her, it's just like, I don't know the right word. It pierces the heart.
But I don't know, I'm just so confused. But like, it's refreshing and new. I don't really know anyone besides my family members and a very small amount of people that knew me before all of this happened and before I became this, this thing, I don't know.
Like calling herself a thing. That is huge.
Mask I put on and the way I am and like.
Oh, I'm sorry, I talked over her.
Mask I put on and the way.
She says mask. I'm so sorry.
This thing, I don't know. The mask I put on and the way I am and like this extravagance and the photos of me, like all this is stemmed just from this place. When I look around my life, like, it's like a cartoon. I don't know, like I've created this fantasy world cartoon.
And again, the extent, like the the extent to which she's describing her whole life being this way. Because there's a lot of people who can like have a brand, but then they come home at night and they know who they really are. But it sounds like she's saying she has not been in touch with that real version of herself for years. And this reunion really brought that back.
But the thing is, I don't even give a about any of these things. I've hardly worn any of these shoes. I love just chilling in like my sweatsuit, my socks, being at home, and then all this other stuff is just part of the character.
The character, she ends by saying. And I think that that's really important to remember about all celebrities, that there is that element of who they present themselves to be. And with influencers as well. Who you present yourself to the media to be is not fully who you are. And we're seeing with Paris how deeply that applies to her. I do not envy the existential questioning that Paris does in this clip. And I want to grieve alongside her for the past version of herself that was stripped away by strict parents and even stricter schools and camps that they sent her to. When all of these different attempts were seemingly just to tame and contain a bright, energetic young woman who was just trying to go have fun and not be perfectly subdued all the time. Now, despite all of these experiences and the impacts of them, Paris has overcome. And publishing the This Is Paris original documentary was the beginning of that. Before that, she builds her brand, right? She gets home from camp, traumatized and shocked, and does what she said that she would do, where she talks about wanting to be so successful that she can't be under her parents' control anymore. So immediately she gets back, starts building her brand as Paris Hilton. That's hot. Clothes, shoes, all this stuff that she just said she doesn't care about anymore. She makes her money. She makes her fame. She appears on shows. She does modeling. She, in the late 20 teens, was doing some DJing, putting out some music over the years. And then, starting with the This Is Paris YouTube Originals documentary, she started speaking out about Provo Canyon School and the emotional growth schools, despite their efforts to silence her. And that's the most, justice part of this for me. Paris first opened up about this experience in her 2020 This Is Paris documentary, which I've shown you clips of as we've gone along. It was not until the filming of this documentary that Paris opened up to her mom for the first time on camera and told her about what had been done to her and how she felt that she couldn't say anything at the time because she wouldn't be believed. I don't have that in the clip compilation video. It is in the longer This Is Paris video. Her mom basically responds with shock and saying, "If we had known, we would have been there in a minute to pick you up and take you home." And again, it's another moment where Paris shows her growth and her ability to extend a lot of grace, because I think, like I said before, there was a lot of reason and a lot of just rightful reason for her to hang on to a lot of bitterness and anger toward her mom. But as soon as her mom said that, at least, what we see in the edited YouTube video, there was probably a longer conversation there. Once her mom says that, she just says it, I love you, Mom. They hug and move on. There's a lot of people who that would not be their main response. So I give Paris a lot of credit for having that much grace to give out. And let me just also say, it is totally fair and not wrong. There are multiple right ways to feel and behave and respond when you're, confronting or addressing or admitting, or however you want to frame this, what happened to you, to the person who caused that to happen. Because at the end of the day, had her mom not sent her away, none of these things would have happened. You can feel a lot of different ways, and it's all okay. So I don't want to say that like Paris's extreme, like radical forgiveness is the only correct way to be. Let me make that clear. It's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you're bitter. It's okay if you're frustrated and if you just like don't understand. That's okay too. It's a journey recovering from things like this. The 60 Minutes interview has some discussion of Paris's involvement with the troubled teen industry movement, or the movement against it, I should say. So let me pull that up really quick so I can show you their clip. Wrong one.
Used at Provo Canyon School, and now I'm taking action along with my fellow survivors.
Teen industry.
I was abused at Provo Canyon School, and now I'm taking action along with my fellow survivors.
She says, like many other teenagers imprisoned within therapeutic residential care, she suffered emotional, physical, and sexual abuse.
It's not my
That doesn't sound like care to me. It's wacky, it's wild, it's illogical what these people are up to.
And sexual abuse.
It's not my shame. It's not anyone's shame here. It's the shame of the people who work at these places late at night.
You can see that she really took to heart that message that her friend said. And I think what a beautiful example of how what we speak into other people's lives really impacts them. I thought that was really lovely to see in chronological order. Other activism efforts include the moment that we talked about where she has that reunion with the Provo Canyon victims and they all, survivors, I should say, I'm sorry. And they all get together to take photos and videos for Breaking Code Silence, and they share their stories for the campaign. And I believe that a friend of hers or a friend of a friend who was at Provo runs that nonprofit, that group. Paris has also done a lot of legal advocacy, which is kind of what brought us here to this moment, with her recently testifying before Congress in June of 2024. She has personally advocated for investigations, transparency, regulation, and or new laws in several U.S. states when it comes to camps like this. And I'll just say there's a ton of articles about these things. I want to show you some, but if you can find a lot more. It's also a very easy Google. Some Googles are not easy, but this is a very easy Google. So if you just Google Paris Hilton advocacy or Paris Hilton troubled teens, a lot of it will come up and you'll see all the different states that she's done various different actions in. But it includes that she's caused or implemented or influenced, advocated toward changes in laws in Missouri, California, Utah, Oregon, Massachusetts, Maine, Idaho, Montana, and more. She advocates for federal change on a federal level by collaborating on and advocating for the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act, which she mentioned during the congressional hearing that we did a whole stream about. And I think that bill was originally crafted as the Accountability for Congregate Care Act, but I think it over time morphed into the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act, which was drafted and promoted in 2022 and eventually introduced to Congress in April of 2023 with bipartisan support, which in this day and age is very difficult to get. So that's another pro for Paris. I'll also mention, according to the Daily Mail, which is, a source, but I don't think they would make it up about this. Paris has even worked with the British government on child protection laws, which I think is absolutely fascinating. So, I didn't want that. Sorry, I tried to share the link, and instead I just shared that sound that I just made with my mouth. I'm so sorry. If you look at Paris Hilton's website, she shares about some of her advocacy, but I will say it's a smidge out of date. Stop, Paris. So this goes to January 26th, 2022, and clearly we're like 2.5 years further from that. But you can see, just from the time her advocacy work basically begins with September 14th, 2020, when her This Is Paris documentary premiered on YouTube. Like, this is her advocacy in her life. There's been other times throughout the years that, she's raised money for this cause and for that cause and donated a percentage of her sales toward that thing. But as far as what she is actually really invested in, and she's like boots on the ground, spending time, going in person, attending meetings, being there, contributing, collaborating, it's on this issue of institutional child abuse. And the language here is congregate care facilities, because this only goes up to 2022. And at that time, the act that she was suggesting to Congress was called was Accountability for Congregate Care Act. But now that so I'm surprised that this is a little bit out of date. But now that it's called the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act, you can look that up and see just her name and her face is all over the articles about it. She's been pushing for federal reform since, there's articles about that since 2021, I think. Let me look at, so anyway, this article that I'm showing you right now, or this page on her website, I guess, it's linked in my description. I'm also going to show, yep, this is from 2023. Stop it. Stop. I actually don't want notifications from this website. Leave me alone. I need to turn on ad block. I'm so sorry. So here we've got good old-fashioned The Hill. This is from April 27th of 2023. Paris Hilton pushes bipartisan bill to reform the troubled teen industry. So this is when it was the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act. And I think it's still not fully ratified yet, so she's still advocating for it in 2024. When she spoke before Congress in June, that, she brought it up. She's trying to get this thing done. But Paris Hilton appeared on Capitol Hill Thursday with a bipartisan group of lawmakers to advocate for the newly introduced bill to regulate troubled teen facilities meant for young people struggling with behavioral issues and substance abuse. Can I just say, troubled teen, like I said, a massive umbrella. In no world should one treatment facility be expected or considered qualified to offer care for such a huge spectrum as anxiety and depression, addiction or substance abuse issues, behavioral issues, and juvenile, like kids convicted of crimes as juveniles also get sent to these camps. These are very different categories. They should not all be in the same place. The one team is not qualified to treat all of these different issues. And here we can see who's on board with her with this. Senators Jeff Merkley, who's a Democrat, John Cornyn, who's a Republican, Tommy Tuberville is a Republican. Those are all senators from the Senate. Yep. As well as reps, who I think are from the House. Ro Khanna and Buddy Carter have joined Clinton at the Capitol to discuss this act. And they also support this act. Carter, Cornyn, Khanna, and Merkley. So Tuberville is the only one who was like there, but not like officially sponsoring the act. The sponsors, she has one Democrat and one Republican from the Senate and one Democrat, one Republican from the House as of 2023. So maybe even more people by now. And I've got to say, when this was discussed in the in the June 2024 hearing, it seemed like everybody at the hearing seemed interested. And like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. That's a good idea. But it wasn't the focus of the act, or it wasn't the focus of that hearing, because that hearing was about taking care of foster youth, child welfare. And her whole point was, do not send foster kids to these places. That's some other like fifth category of should not be in the same facility as all of these other people. They're not all troubled. They each have specific issues that need specific care. Anyway. But I digressed. I could digress for a long time. Ooh. Shady. Have you seen how Provo Canyon responds to negative reviews on Google? They always ask for the person's contact info to speak privately rather than responding directly. Pathetic. Pathetic. Woof. Of course. I'm not surprised, but like, say it with your chest. Do what you do with your chest. Don't hide. Aren't you teaching kids about accountability? Aren't you teaching these kids about responsibility and honesty? Guys, the amount that what is taught at these camps lines up in my mind with connections, with like extremism in conservative fundamentalist Christianity under the Christian umbrella. Like the amount of the manipulation and twisting that I see, that I'm just like, I have complex feelings about it because of the community that supports these camps and how they don't realize that it's all based in culty shit. It's all based in culty shit. We're going to get there. We're going to get there later in this series. But anyway, Paris Hilton doing good things. We'll get one thing at a time. Again, she spoke before Congress in June of 2024. So the last stream that I did on this topic is about that. I have a little playlist going. It's just these two videos now, but there'll be more. Advocacy seems to be Paris Hilton's new focus these days, and I really respect her for it. She says in her This Is Paris documentary that she was nervous to come forward about all of this because it would damage the brand that she had built, which you see her describe in the documentary as this mask, this thing, this character, this cartoon. Maybe it's for the best that that brand was damaged, if she feels like it was damaged. I think that that brand and that mask has been her security for all this time, that keeps her safe. But I think that her vulnerability is much more empowering and much more impactful and effective. Paris also said at the same time that she felt like talking about her experience was her path to freedom and healing for herself and for other current and former victims of camps like these. So I hope that Paris feels now that the risk was outweighed by the reward of helping so many people and creating real change. Like I said, she's not just doing a fundraiser and moving on with her life. She is boots on the ground, in person, working with government, collaborating on laws and bills. She is the one spearheading this. She's doing the thing. She's not sending some assistant to go sign her autograph for her. She's sitting down there. She's driving over to the person's house, walking in the door, signing. You know what I mean? So my takeaways from this, it's inspiring to see how Paris has specifically overcome such extreme, oppressive, violent forms of silencing to now use her voice and her platform to speak out and bring change against these terrible places. I don't know if it's a paradox or a dichotomy, whatever that is. I love it. I love it. I love it. Poetic irony? I don't know, something like that. Tell me what's the right rhetorical term I'm looking for. But ultimately, it's just so inspiring. Like, that is the power of celebrity, and she's using it so well. That is how famous people should use their influence and their power, rather than the awful ways that we have seen and talked about a lot on this channel, unfortunately. That is how you use your celebrity, your influence, your power, your money, your freedom of time, because you have so much money, to make a difference in this world, to at least raise awareness and to accomplish real, tangible goals toward a worthy cause. It's inspiring. It's a great example. And it's worth sharing. I like sharing good news with you guys. The good news comes at the end of a road of the bad news of listening to Paris's unfortunate story, her unfortunate experiences, but such good news of her overcoming that. Her survivorship is so extreme and so applaudable. That's where I need to stop for today, because the next section of this has to do with Bad Baby, and we're already at an hour and a half. So I think I'm going to let you go in terms of, like, I'm not going to continue any further. But just to reiterate, I think I said this at the beginning of my last stream. Here, before we go, I'm doing a fundraiser for Breaking Code Silence, which is the organization that Paris Hilton and her friends took photos and videos for. She works together with them to advocate to stop institutional child abuse. It is around my video somewhere. There should be a donation link. I hope that you check it out. And even if you give $1, it helps. Every little bit helps. Many hands makes light work. I hope that you consider contributing to the good that Breaking Code Silence does. And I'm going to put that fundraiser on all of my streams and videos that are related to this. Also, I am going to create a video out of the troubled teen industry streams, so that it'll just be a little bit easier to digest in the future if you want all of it in one sitting. This is kind of the raw version of that. But for those of you who are here, who are sitting with me through the raw version of this, thank you so much. I love having people here while I talk about these things. It really makes a difference. And I love having your perspectives. And yeah, I can't imagine paying to have my child kidnapped from their bed in the middle of the night. That is so screwed up. Yeah, paying. That's such a good... These rich people, I think something happens when you get too much money and your brain just, like, goes a little weird. And you're like, how can I make an impact on my teen? I know this gimmick, this absolutely absurd, ridiculous experience that I'll put them through, where I have all the control. I know exactly what's going on. I know they're going to be fine, but they think they're being kidnapped and escorted to God knows where by 2 masked men. What a good idea. What good parenting. Go me. I really figured that out. Like, good God. And Taya, you made a good point about, like, what she could have been thinking. I feel bad for Paris, especially coming from a rich family where you have a high risk of being kidnapped for ransom. Like, that's not a concern that I have, but I imagine Paris Hilton, when she sees masked people in her room in the middle of the freaking night, that's on her mind. I'm sure it was on her parents' mind too when they were wishing that she wouldn't go out and party and stuff. But I would rather that they hire some bodyguards than do all this shit. Seems like not the way to handle it. But again, I'm not a parent. I don't know. I'm not rich. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just making allegations and speculation, but lordy lord. Anyway. Oh, and Disney. The parents are badly manipulated, master manipulators, and they will say anything to get these kids and the money associated with them. Yeah, the camps, so the parents are manipulated by the camps. Yeah. They're master manipulators, and they'll say anything to get these kids and the money associated with them. And that's what I'm particularly proud of Paris making the connection between these camps and the government funding them by sending foster kids to these camps. So without intending to, my tax dollars, our tax dollars are being put to use to fund these god-awful places because we fund the foster care system. And if that system sends a kid to one of these camps, that money is being used to pay for that kid to be at that camp. Not on my watch. No, thank you. Listen, I'm from Connecticut. I pay taxes. I'm okay with paying for taxes if I can, see how that money is being used to improve the lives of people around me. Not for that shit. No. Abso-fucking-lutely not. No. Especially with how unregulated this industry is. Because like I said, the most basic regulation of why do you have these 10 different categories of kids who each need such specific care all under one roof? Because they're troubled. They're just so troubled. What are we going to do with these kids? That it astounds me and it upsets me and I gotta go because I can just ramble for a while about it. But it's also one of those things that to me should be so obviously bad. And yet we have people who keep this industry alive. There are enough people out there who don't think that this is a problem, that it keeps the industry alive. So we have to talk about it. We have to raise awareness and put this message out there so that those people can hopefully have their eyes open to see the truth of the matter. And it's sad to think about. I especially don't want the government funding it with foster care youth who didn't do anything wrong to be put in these places that are essentially punishment cruelty camps. But anyway, next time, I'm not sure when next time will be, but when we get there, we'll discuss Bad Baby's story, which is very different from Paris's in terms of how she got to the camp. Very interesting. If you've heard about Bad Baby, you probably know this whole story, but it's worth reviewing because Dr. Phil has some answering to do that he never really did. And I would love to learn if and how there was ever any follow-up from Bad Baby about that. There was a whole thing that happened in 22. We'll talk about it. That's for next time. Until then, thank you so much for being here today. If you're here, like the video, subscribe to my channel, set your notifications to all so you can get notified next time I go live. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below because this is a very complex topic. Paris's story is one of many. I'd love to hear more about what you guys have to say and what you think about this whole troubled teen industry and especially the foster care element of it in the comments below. I've got to run. I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend out there. Peace be with you always. Goodbye. And thanks for hanging out.